I knew I was trans when I was very young. Like I just knew. I didn't have the words for it. I'd never heard the word transgender. And so, but I knew who I was and who I wanted to be. There's always something going on, whether it's a death in the family or, you know, I've worked with kids that are in the system, you know, kids who have experienced really bad trauma, even at a young age. And I really don't try to avoid writing about that stuff. I mean, if kids are old enough that they have to live through it and have to survive it, then why should I restrain from including that in my work?
Well,
you know, it's not just a teacher saying, hey, reading's important. It's like, here's my teacher that actually writes books.
When I was 5, I lived with my mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Welcome, everyone, to In Other Words podcast. I'm Pam, and these are my co-hosts, Jan, Val, and Karen. And tonight's guest is Dawn Parks. Dawn has been teaching for nearly 30 years. She came out publicly in 2025, making her one of the only openly transgender elementary teachers in the state. She's an avid runner and is currently training for the Des Moines Marathon in the fall. She also enjoys biking, and between the two, she can often be found roaming the streets and trails of central Iowa. When she's stuck indoors, she spends a lot of her time baking with a focus on a variety of pie. Dawn is a longtime writer, but has only been sharing her work with others for a few years. So far, she's focused on middle grade fiction and has published 3 novels for that audience. During her teaching career, she's witnessed the challenges today's children face. With that experience in mind, she doesn't shy away from writing about tough subjects. She just published her latest middle grade novel, which is her first featuring a queer character. So Dawn, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Like Dawn, I think it's really, really fascinating. You know, when I met, when we met and then we were in that writers group together. I think it was back in March, did that writers group at Des Moines Pride. To be an educator and how, kids have no freaking filter, and just some of the stuff that you've gone through just as an educator and stuff. I think it's really fascinating how you've navigated that with such grace and charm, because that would be really, really difficult. So talk to us a little bit about your book. Talk to us about how you was inspired to write this. Talk to us about being an educator, because I think teachers are so important.
Yeah, that's like a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I'll start with the book. My latest book is the sequel to the book I released last year, which was called The Last Sunset. This one's called Finding Golden View. The characters don't really overlap very much in the 2 stories, but it's more another side of the same story. So The Last Sunset was about a boy who got sent away to live with his grandfather in the mountains for the summer. Basically, his dad didn't want him around, and so he kind of shoved him off. The boy had to come to terms with realizing that he wasn't really wanted at home. His mom had passed away and he barely knew his grandfather. So he gets to the mountains and his grandfather's really busy with the kind of secretive construction project. And it's just him trying to figure out who he is when there's not many folks around that he can relate to. The only other child on the whole mountain is a girl his age. And so they kind of connect together without any other options. And they just spend their days exploring the mountain and learning to love nature and getting to know each other. And it's kind of like just a happy healing time for him. But they eventually learn that this construction project isn't what it seems. And they're really building a survival shelter for a meteor that's coming. And, they go from this happy summer in the mountains to they don't know if they're going to be around in a few more months. The whole tone of their little adventure on the mountain changes. And, they do what they can to help out with the project while still trying to maintain their innocence. And in the process, he learns a lot about what family is and what it means to him, and, ways that he can expand that for himself.
I write a lot about nuclear families as well, as just kind of be creating your own nuclear family, and how important it is, that the family through blood and then chosen, chosen family is just as much as important as blood family. And I write about that a lot in my novels as well. Yeah, that sounds like that's amazing. So
Well, yeah, it is.
really, that's a really amazing preface. Do you have a lot of middle grade, have they read your book and come up to you and want to discuss with you and talk to you about it and stuff like that?
That's the nice thing about being a teacher is when I started writing, when I decided I want to make a book, I wanted to write something that my kids at school could read and that I could share with them. And so that's where this came out. It's actually my second book. My first was Under My Dead Name, which I actually added that to the bibliography at the end of my new book. So I was kind of brave there. I mean, that name just doesn't connect with me whatsoever anymore.
Karen, comment on the graphics for a minute. I think that's freaking adorable. I really, really do. I think the graphics on this is adorable.
I love it.
Two little people sitting there in the mountains.
I love it. It's perfect.
Pondering life. Pondering life,
I was very, very pleased with what I got. Oz Lee is the cover artist for both of my books. And I knew after my first one that it wasn't something that was in my wheelhouse for things that I could do independently. And it was like this, it was really bad. And so I'm like, okay, I need somebody to do this for me, but it's, writing independently and self-publishing, it was like a financial concern. But Oz is actually a local artist. He's also in a support group that I'm in. And so I met him that way, and we just kind of talked about it. And I'd noticed some of the just drawings that he does and stuff, and he was posting them on social media. And I was like, this really has the vibe that I'm looking for. And so I talked to him about it, and he was more than happy to take up the challenge. And he'd never done any kind of cover work or anything before. But yeah, I was really, really happy with it. And with him being local, we could just sit down in a room together and just bounce ideas back and forth and make little tweaks and stuff, which was really nice.
I love that you don't see the faces in because when I was working on car brochures, I was always nervous about putting a model in the car because I didn't want it to be a set person in that car. Because you can't see the faces, people can imagine themselves in that setting easier. You know what I mean?
And that's a great point.
That's
something
I tend to do with my writing also. Is I want my readers to be able to picture themselves as this could be me. I want them to be kind of enveloped by the story. And so I don't lean into a lot of physical descriptions when I'm writing. I go for more of the internal viewpoints of what they're feeling and what they're thinking as not really the visual side.
Yeah. Well, I read the plot of The Last Sunset, just reading over your bio, and I was really amazed by it because, it sounds like, oh, what a lovely story. He's getting to know his grandfather, maybe, hopefully, and then boom, there's this meteor coming, and thinking about, what kids face these days and what they're learning about space and the end of the world. I mean, this is very dramatic, I think. And yeah.
And for the characters in this story, it's more of a hypothetical threat to them.
Sure.
It's more like, this is possibly going to happen. What do we do? And it's about their internal struggle. And, they're in this safe place surrounded by people that can take care of them. And so it's more about the impact on their lives, on the planet as a whole, and the mountain that they've fallen in love with. So it's a very introspective kind of trauma for them that they're living through. And then the sequel is completely the opposite. And we can talk about that whenever you're ready, but
Okay. Well, no, why not now?
Pam, do you have the other one?
Can you read a little bit? Do you have a little bit of The Last Sunset?
Yes.
It's okay if you don't.
Put me on the spot. I don't have anything like
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
I could grab a copy off my shelf here real quick.
I'm just curious. Now I want to read it. And I can't wait.
Would you like me to, or?
Yeah, no, I think that would be great.
That'd be great, Dawn.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Pam, do you have another book cover on there? I can't remember. Can Pam? Oh. Ooh.
Really nice.
I remember. Finding Golden View.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Nice.
that's cool too. Yeah.
That was the first one.
Yeah, Finding Golden View is the second.
Oh, it's the second. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the sequel there. The cover on that one was, we rushed it a little bit more, but we were looking for something darker.
Mm-hmm.
This story is not, oh, let's have some fun playing in the mountains. There's not really any part of it that's just like fun and enjoyable for the people involved. It's a constant struggle just to survive.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and explain the plot for that real quick, I guess.
Yeah.
But this one is about a girl who's been in the foster system for a while, and she's been bouncing from one home to another. The reason she's in the foster home is because she was basically disowned by her family when they caught her kissing another girl. And, you know, they did a lot of lying and manipulation to get rid of her. And so she ended up in the system and was not having a good time with that. Being a teenager, when you start older, your prospects aren't really as hopeful as if a younger child. But when the news of the meteor comes out, she is like, this really stinks. But then she finds out that her current foster parents are going to get rid of her. They're just going to drop her off at a shelter and go off to survive on their own. And she's kind of had enough of being handed off from one place to another. And so she's like, I'm not doing that anymore. So she steals a bunch of their stuff and runs away, including a bike. And her plan is she's just going to ride her bike to the city and just, maybe the end of the world's coming, but she just wants to have fun for a couple of weeks before it happens. And it doesn't go very well. She's on her first day of her ride and she gets caught in a really bad thunderstorm and has a flat tire and is really kind of out of options. And then this man in a truck drives by and sees her struggling and is like, can't just abandon a kid by the side of the road. So he very awkwardly offers to drive her to someplace safe. And she ends up going to his house because the storm is so severe and nobody's open or anything. And, they're just talking and, sharing her experiences and everything. And the man realizes that he's the worst parent on the face of the earth because of the way he's treated his own child. And so he's like, my son is in a safe place. I'm going to go find him. You're welcome to come along with me if you want to. And since she was setting out on her little adventure, she's like, I'd like to see the mountains. That would be cool. So she joins him against her own better judgment because he's a total stranger. But the story is about them trying to reach the mountains where his son is, the son being the character from The Last Sunset.
From the last book. Okay.
Yeah, so the dad, other than like a phone call or two, is not in The Last Sunset. It's more of like an abstract person, kind of a villain off to the side. But this kind of like brings a little more humanity to him. And so they set off trying to drive to Colorado, which is a long haul. And they're running out of gas and they're robbed and they're in a crash and like everything goes wrong. and they find themselves in the middle of Nebraska with no transportation. So they unload their bicycles from the back of the truck and all the supplies that they actually stole from the same family that she had stolen her initial things from. And they just set off on their bikes, trying to ride their bikes to the mountains.
Mhm.
And so things don't go well. They have to deal with the actual impact of the meteor and the effects it has on the environment, and also how other people are reacting. So it's, there's, the first one is a very slow burn, The Last Sunset is, but Finding Golden View, it's more like one disaster after another. They deal with fire and injuries and sicknesses and, weather and everything else. And there are times when it really doesn't look like they're going to make it. And the dad especially has several times when he's ready to give up, but she finds kind of an inner strength that she didn't know she had as they're traveling. And she's like, we're going to get there one way or another. We're going to survive one way or another. And as they're doing that, she starts to kind of change her view of what she is looking for in a family also. And just the way they bond together and they take care of each other and they help each other, and in multiple instances they save each other. They get really close, and it's about this journey that seems impossible, but they're trying to make it work anyways.
Nice.
Wow. Well, it seems like a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
absolutely is, paramount and most important, for your audience, that you're writing for sure, So yeah, tell me a little bit about what your, I think we were going to talk about that, what your students say to you about reading your book, and what do they say? That's really got to, I bet they really look up to you for that. I think that's really interesting. Well, I remember at the Trans Festival, you had a flock of people around you the whole time, and you did really well, if I remember correctly. You did.
I sold some books. Yeah,
Yes,
it was really nice. Yeah, for the kids at school, they don't care that, I've self-published or anything, but I mean, they can hold in their hands a book that their teacher made. And, it's not just a teacher saying, hey, reading's important. It's like, here's my teacher that actually writes books.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of every year, I just basically start like a wait list, and I have 4 copies of the book at school, and I just loan them out one after another. And, kids begging me, it's like, when's it my turn? When's it my turn? And, it's like, I don't ever like push it on them or try to sell it to them or anything. It's just, I'm excited that they're excited about my work. And so, I have it available. They can just borrow it. And, it's really impactful for me to have kids that interested in it, and, getting the feedback from them directly is really cool, because as middle grade writers, it's really hard to connect with your audience, but a portion of mine is kind of built right in. And, so I will sometimes like bounce ideas off of them. It's like, hey, what do you think this would do for a story? And they'll be like, oh, that stinks. But, sometimes like, oh yeah, but you should do this. And they always want me to use their names in my books, which that's a little trickier. I can't do 50 different kids, because if I pick one, they're going to think that's their favorite.
They're going to want all.
But
yeah,
I had a couple of kids last year that the 2 kids on the cover of The Last Sunset, they swore up and down that they were the kids on the cover.
Oh, well,
and they wouldn't listen to me. It's like, no, it's not you, I promise. But it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you come up with like your creativity? What is your process? What inspires you? Do you write? Do you have like an outline when you write? Do you write off, the seat of your pants? Are you a pantser? How do you?
I'm like a hybrid, I think. Like I'll get an idea and I'll I'll just not write anything down other than maybe like just like a one sentence little thought of like, I could write about this. And I'll just rattle around in my head for a few weeks. And sometimes it doesn't really go anywhere. And it's like, okay, that one's not very workable. And sometimes it seems like, yeah, I could really do that. And then I'll start with like a really brief outline and, just like, is there enough there to make a whole story out of? And if there is, then I'll expand that outline and I'll start writing. And then as I go, I just usually throw the outline away because I can't stick to it. But I start with one usually.
That's interesting. And I think it's what we all kind of do. You get an idea and see how long it hangs around in your head. And, if it goes away, I think, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. But some things stick and you think, God, why that? What am I going to write about a mouse? I'm using that as an example, but
And The Last Sunset, actually, I wrote probably 10 years ago. And it was more of like a young adult novel. It was a little bit longer, I think. But then I just lost the whole thing in a hard drive crash.
Wow.
And
Oh,
it was probably better, though, because I think when I rewrote it, it was so much better. I changed the characters, the formatting. I made it a little less heavy. It's still too long for middle grade, which is the main reason I ended up self-publishing. Is the feedback I was getting from agents was like, this is too long for the genre. And I'm like, yeah. And I carved out a lot when I was editing, but from what was left, I just couldn't cut anymore. And so when I wrote Finding Golden View, I wanted to kind of practice making it fit the format better. So it's a little bit shorter. It's a little more action filled. It's a lot more action filled, but it's more what you would consider marketable, I guess.
Yeah. And we
marketable
have to, we have to, weigh that. I know. Yeah.
Well, it's the stigma with, that's part of the reason why we created our press, Crimson Crow Press, is that it's the stigma with being self-published. You think, that it's something less than traditional public, and it's really not, being indie writers and going that route, it's just another avenue to get the same result in a different way.
Well, and I think we all know there's an awful lot of crap out there that is getting published by major publishers because the name is known. And, a lot of good stuff is being falling by the wayside. So I think the smaller publishers like us are going to, and what we're looking for is, material that we respect and we like to think we're pretty good writers. So, it just depends on where you find yourself, but that stigma still exists because every time I tell someone I'm a writer, who's your publisher? It's an automatic question.
Yep. Or how much you get paid.
Yeah, or how much money? Right.
Yeah.
Lots. Oh yeah.
I make about 2 cents an hour.
Yeah, right.
Lots of money. Yeah.
Anyway, we missed the opportunity though. You were going to read something, and I would love to hear it.
And I got distracted and stopped looking for the part that I was going to read.
Okay.
So
you could talk about your amazing pies that I want to buy one.
Oh yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you, what kind of pies do you make?
I make all kinds of pie. My favorite to bake is pecan. My recipe is like 6 ingredients. It's quick, it's simple. But my oven hates making any kind of custard pies, and they just don't turn out. I think it doesn't maintain a consistent temperature, and it just doesn't let the custardy pies set. So pumpkin doesn't work either.
It's all about the crust. Have you got the crust down?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I have 2 recipes that I only use the new one. But there is a bakery in Des Moines called Pie Bird Pies. And I went to a little workshop that they had, and they shared some of the recipes. And one of the things that they shared was their all butter crust recipe. And oh my gosh, it's so easy to mass produce. So for a little background, I started making pies after I got married because my now ex-wife's family didn't do pie for holidays. It just wasn't their thing. And that that wasn't tolerable for me. So I learned how to make pie.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do
So it
too.
just is like, you've got to have at least pecan. So I started making that, and the recipe I use is just so simple and basic.
That's a good skill to use.
Yeah, it's come in handy. And at first I would use store-bought pies or store-bought crust. And then I started like researching and trying out different crust recipes. And I ended up using one that was like half shortening, half butter. Lard makes the best ones.
I've read that. I've actually read that.
Right.
It's so unhealthy. And I don't use lard anymore, but I did the half butter, half shortening recipe. And it turned out well, but they were just a nightmare to roll out. They would never work out very well. It would take me 2 or 3 tries to get one crust. And, so it wasn't long after that people at school started asking about my pies. And I was like, well, yeah, I can make you one. And next thing I knew, I was making like 20 or 30 pies every Thanksgiving for staff members at school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so I would just use the store-bought because I can't do 20 pies. And you have to roll out 40 of them to make them work.
Yeah.
But I always kept trying new crust recipes, trying to find something that I could make more consistently and efficiently. And, over time, like most Thanksgivings now, I make about 40 pies and then another 20 or so for Christmas.
Dawn.
Wow.
I make a lot of pie.
Writer / baker.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. And whenever my husband says, "Oh, what do you want?" Like a dessert or a morning, I said, "Nothing healthy." Nothing healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want hangover food, greasy, whatever, hangover pie. I want your lemon. What was it? Lemon meringue or key lime? Key lime.
Oh, well, yes.
I can make a key lime pretty solid these days.
Ooh.
You're going to have some business.
I went to this workshop, this demonstration that Pie Bird Pies put on. I went with a friend and I got that recipe and tried it out. And I was like, it was so simple. So I stopped making store-bought crust or stopped using store-bought crust and just make everything from scratch now.
That's great.
And I've really done a lot of fruit pies lately. I've done blueberry. I do a ton of apple. I've done like triple berry. I've tried a peach. It's just not my thing. But I make a lot. I set a goal to do 100 pies this year, and I've kept track of what I've made, but I stopped counting a couple weeks ago. Well, about a month ago. But I'm over 30 now, I believe. I was at 25, and I'm way over 30. I've made probably 10 more since then.
How much do you charge for them, Dawn?
Usually just pretty much cost. I mean, I sell them mostly to friends and people at school, so I just have them pay for the ingredients. So if it's somebody I don't know, I'll charge them.
Yeah, heck, that's some time and effort.
I don't cook as much or bake as much as I used to, but in the kitchen, I can get into a deep meditative state. Especially at the kitchen sink. Just I don't know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something about it that
writing, design, and baking. I can see it. It all goes together.
Yeah.
You guys
all
are
right. It's very relaxing and calming, especially rolling out the crust. When you have a good recipe that's consistent, it's just like you get in the rhythm of it, and it feels good.
Yeah, it does.
All right, we can whenever you're ready to read your excerpt. And
okay.
All right, Dawn, go ahead.
So this is from early in The Last Sunset. It's a part where Alex, the boy in the story, is really realizing that his dad pawned him off and does not want to be there with him. And he's talking with his grandfather about it. And so his grandfather is starting this conversation here. Your dad loves you, he said. I sniffed in disagreement. He does, he asserted. He never shows it, I argued. Never. Since Mom died, he wishes I was gone too. Your dad loved your mom very much, he told me, and she loved him just as much. Your Grandma Susan and I were both really happy when they got married. Grandma Susan had passed away when I was 11, just a year after Mom. When your mom died, he continued, the world lost some of its light. She was our only child, but your grandmother and I had each other to lean on. We tried to help your dad, to talk to him, or at least get him to see a professional therapist, but he refused. He started hanging up on us if we mentioned your mom, so we backed off and tried to give him some space. I guess we figured that he wanted to deal with things in his own way and spend his time with you. I snorted. Spend time with me? Grandpa, I've spent more time with you this week than I've spent with Dad in the last 3 years. He avoids me like I've got a disease. He doesn't want anything to do with me. I'm sorry, Alexander. I had no idea. The night before I came here, he seemed so happy and excited that I thought everything was finally going to start getting better. But he was only happy because he knew he was getting rid of me for the whole summer. The moment my plane arrived, he handed me off and left without saying goodbye. He said it was all last minute, but he never even packed his suitcase. A tear moistened Grandpa's cheek as it made its way down to his jaw. I'm so sorry. If I had known how bad it was, I would have pushed harder to get him the help he needs. It's too late now, I said. Now that I'm gone, he probably never wants to see me again. He'd be happy if I stayed here permanently. Every time he looks at me, he sees Mom. I see her when I look at you too, Alexander, and that's a good thing. Not when it means my own father doesn't love me because I remind him too much of her. My words seemed to break Grandpa's heart, and I could see the sadness in his eyes. He sat silently for several minutes before speaking. I love you, Alexander, and there is no one in this world I would want here more than you. Can I give you a hug? I shrugged, acting like I didn't care. Deep down, that was what I needed more than anything in the world. Grandpa wrapped his arms around my shoulders for several seconds. It felt like walking into a warm building on a really cold day. I'll let you get some rest now, he told me as he stood to leave. Good night, Alexander. Grandpa? I said quietly. He stopped in the doorway. Yes? My dad calls me Alexander. The people who care about me can call me Alex. That's what Mom had called me. Dad, too, before.
Nice.
Wow.
Excellent.
Nice.
That's excellent, Dawn. Really.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
I love that.
and also I can see what you mean by, any kid reading that can put themselves into
Yeah.
that character.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Family is the theme of pretty much all of my writing so
Yeah.
far.
Well,
For
Yeah.
these two especially.
mhm.
For the next one, I have my first draft done of. It's another huge theme about what family is,
Mhm.
and different forms that families can take. And my first one too. So I guess all four of them. It's a pretty
Yeah.
major theme, just families and friendships.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
also seems like a sense of these kids feel abandoned.
Mhm.
They feel
Well,
abandoned.
so
and-
many kids do, and so many these
Absolutely.
days parents are so preoccupied.
Oh yeah.
It's so typical and just and mean to spend time with their kids, but they don't. And so I've done my family do divorce law, and so I've worked with a lot of divorcing couples, and these parents use therapists to tell them how to be a parent, which I just think, how sad is that? Not that therapists aren't important at times, but to give over your parenting to the court or therapist is not right.
Mhm.
Well, I think in it's generational trauma. It's
Yeah.
generational
Oh,
trauma, and I really,
Yes.
really feel my
right.
parents only, and I love that you're showing some positive, stuff with the grandparent too, because you hope there's always at least one, you know what I mean? Some kids don't even get that, but
Yeah.
it's generational trauma. And what I try to do in my books too is to break that generational trauma. Somebody has to step up. Somebody has to say something, abandonment, addiction. I mean, there's all sorts of things that these young kids go through that is just, it's going to be a thorn in their side in their formative years, and when they go into as adults, it's going to be brought into their relationships. I really feel that, Dawn, that you're spreading some good light on some very, very tough topics that need to be addressed. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been teaching long enough that I've yet to meet a child that's come from like the perfect home environment.
Yeah.
There's always something going on, whether it's a death in the family or, I've worked with kids that are in the system, kids who have experienced really bad trauma, even at a young age. And I really don't try to avoid writing about that stuff. I mean, if kids are old enough that they have to live through it and have to survive it, then why should I restrain from including that in my work?
Well, I do think kids need to talk about it. And, in my day, kids, we weren't allowed to talk about anything.
Right.
They had to just shut up. So times have changed, but there, as you say, I don't know any kids either who come from perfect. I don't know any perfect families either.
And trauma stuff is hard to write about.
It is,
but it's kind of healing for me when I do, because I didn't have the happy, cheerful childhood that I would have liked to have.
Yeah.
And so, writing about things, kind of nipping away at my own trauma, it's kind of restorative for me. And I think reads one of my stories, it could be really helpful to them.
Yeah.
Now, there's got to be some kids in your class that want to write now they have seen your book.
I don't know if it's specifically because of me, but I had a student last year who read my book and then started writing his own. I'm not going to take credit for that.
No, but
he was such an amazing writer. It's like, okay, you're in 4th grade and you're writing better than me, so I'm not going to talk to you anymore. But
isn't that crazy?
Just such well thought out ideas, and the vocabulary he used, it was like he's awesome at dialogue. It's like everything you could ask a kid to do. Just overperforming. I mean, easily at a high school level of writing already.
I had a trans boy last year. This is great. Comes up to me, probably about 13, and I'm like, well, where's your parent at? Because I can only, you can only really look at one novel. So he was like, well, I want the synopsis. I went, oh, well, excuse me. I was like, oh, well, I knew the whole deal. I want to read an excerpt. I want to look at, the synopsis. I'm like, what? Oh, excuse me. I mean, what they were doing.
I think we forget how smart kids are. I do. I think, again, my generation, we were not treated like we knew much. And then I can remember, I got sent away to a boarding school, which was a wonderful little school. And they thought we were all creative and smart. And it's the first time I learned that actually I was smart and creative. I had no idea.
Co-ed, Jan, or co-ed?
Yeah, it was.
Hers.
Yeah, mine was ahead of its time.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I'd have been like this.
No, it was great. Yeah.
Oh, it was so fun. No, and we talk about, when we were children, how really the last generation of leave on your bike, be gone all day. And they wouldn't know all the tons of adventures that you would go on.
That was the other side of it. They didn't know where we were. And, we bad.
Well, that's the cool thing.
Yeah, that's the cool
about our
part.
generation. But yeah,
I know.
boarding schools and that's another family. And I know
Oh,
for
it's a whole other family. Way
John
more
got
important
sent
than
to
my
a
own
boarding
family.
school
Yeah.
that was all
Yeah.
boys,
Mhm.
and that was another family for him. It
Oh,
was
John's
so
family was his. Yeah.
important to him, those relationships.
Yeah.
So Dawn, what do you have coming out in the future? What's your hope to get done this summer? Do you have to write curriculum? Can you get to do some fun stuff? What do you have to do as far as teacher stuff and your own stuff?
For teacher stuff, I have a few classes I need to take this summer. I really should get signed up for those because I'm going to run out of time. We're already at the end of June. So I need to do those for my license renewal. That's it for teaching stuff this summer. I don't do summer school anymore. It's just, I'm not one of those incredible teachers who can just do the same thing year round. When school's over, I'm over it. So,
Right.
Good.
I have to have the decompression time.
Yeah.
I know I would if I, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. God.
But as far as writing, I have the first draft of a story done already. I actually finished it before I finished Finding Golden View. It's a little more like a fictional memoir almost.
Nice.
And so it, instead of kind of hinting at the edges of my childhood, it like more dives right into parts of it. And, it's really hard to write about that. So
Yeah.
it needs some extensive editing just to, I avoided writing a lot of the more emotionally heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to go back in and add that and buff it up where it's needed. So,
well, and I'm not I'm going to add Crimson Crow Press on here because I can, right, Jan? We can do
of course.
If you're interested, Dawn, we love your style of writing, and really contact us and let us know if you want us to look at it and help you in any way, because I think what you're doing is important. I think that young children need this. You're good at it. I like writing for adults, but I think what you do is very, very important as well. And reach out to us if you need any help in any way. We have a short story anthology coming out in September, and we're actually submissions end the end of July. If you'd be interested in submitting a short story, let us know.
Okay.
We'd love to take a look at it. And I think we have 15 writers? How many?
Yeah, I think we're up to about 15, but there are a few more, I guess. So, yeah, and we're looking at 10,000 about the most words. Most of them are around 8,900, or I think mine is less, 7,500, something like that. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, we would love to.
Sure, we would love to.
Yeah. So what's going forward? You said you're going to work on some writing stuff. So are you going to do like trilogies? Are you going to do a trilogy, you think?
I don't think so. I think I kind of wrapped up the loose ends for The Last Sunset in Finding Golden View. If I were to write another one, it would have to be completely unrelated characters. And I don't know. I want to write a little bit more about my own journey. Yeah. And I don't think I could do that in that context.
No.
I don't know that I could do that as a middle grade novel. I think
we need some
I think it might be a little too heavy for that. It'd probably be more young adult, possibly teen.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, I'm going to be diving into that. Right now I'm trying to enjoy my summer as much as I can. I'm dealing with a lot of stuff outside of work and everything, and trying to make some headway on that. And the next school year is going to be a challenge. We have a new principal and a lot of new staff members coming in, and with administrators, it's really hard being a trans teacher.
I was going to ask you about that and with DEI and all that, stuff.
Yeah. So I'll just go kind of back and start from the beginning. I knew I was trans when I was very young. Like I just knew. I didn't have the words for it.
Yeah.
I'd never heard the word transgender. And so, but I knew who I was and who I wanted to be. And I came from a very, very conservative family. I was raised Mormon. My dad was special forces in the military. So he was a Green
wow.
Beret.
Oh, wow.
That's a
Combat
double
veteran
whammy.
and
Double whammy.
everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez.
And so any little hints of queerness were not tolerated.
Yeah.
And, you know, as going through therapy and everything, I've really come to realize what a little fruity kid I was, and how some of the things that happened in my childhood really affected me. And so, you know, growing up, it was learning to pretend to be a boy as much as I could. And I mean, it never, ever felt right. But it's like for my survival, I kind of had to hide everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got pretty good at it. You know, in high school, a lot of people thought I was gay. I mean, they were right, but not in the way that they were imagining. But, you know, around that age was when I first started hearing the word transgender. And it would always be in the context of like drag queens or strippers or prostitutes. And I couldn't relate to any of that. So I'm like, I can't be transgender because none of that seems remotely appealing to me. And so it's like, I can't be trans, just move on with life. And then a few years ago, like during COVID, the thinking started. But when my youngest was old enough to start driving himself to all his practices and games and stuff like that, and he made the comment like, I don't really need you for that anymore. And that was kind of like the big moment where it's like, okay, if I'm not needed this way as a parent anymore, then who am I? And as soon as I asked that question, I already knew the answer. And it was like, okay, I can't hide this anymore. And so I kind of dove in. You know, I started therapy, I started with the doctor, you know, and she was giving me some feedback and things. And the big obstacle I had was like, I'm a teacher, I'm an elementary teacher, and I know I'm transgender. And my first thought was, I can't do anything until I find a new career. I didn't think I could possibly do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I started looking a little bit. And in the meantime, I started just a very, very low dose of hormone therapy. And I was on that dosage for like a year and a half. And it was even you would call it microdosing. It was not an effective dosage. But even with that, like I started feeling more at home in my own body, like no physical changes whatsoever, but like my mind just felt calmer. And I'd go to therapy and I'd have, you know, these big moments at therapy over and over again. And I just, I felt not good, but I felt okay.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where I knew that I had to do more. And so I decided I would start upping my dosage and figure out the job thing later. If I got fired, I got fired. And so I doubled my dosage, which was still a very low dosage. But then I started feeling at first it was just like a fog was gone. And then it was like, okay, now I can actually see things. And now I felt peaceful. And that was just such an amazing feeling. Like I was on that new dosage for like a month and I called my doctor. I was like, no, this isn't going to work. We're going to go all in. And so that was when all the big changes started and everything. And, you know, my plan was to just hide it at work as long as I could. And, you know, just keep looking for options to do something else. And then, last year, oh my gosh, it's the beginning of the 23-24 school year, I think it was. We had a back to school night, And, I was there and I just had like all my boy clothes on, and I was just standing there, and I just had kind of like a little mental breakdown because like, I can't do this. I can't pretend to be this person that I know I'm not anymore. And I reached out to some friends, and they took me thrifting like that weekend, and I got a whole new wardrobe. And I didn't like officially come out, but I really stopped hiding things. And then I started having conversations with people I was pretty close to at school. And the spring before, I'd talked to a couple of our guidance counselors who were queer, and just two people who I absolutely knew would be supportive, just so somebody would know. And so I wouldn't go through the whole summer of just agonizing. And then, after that back to school night, it was just like, forget this. And I just started talking to everybody I was close to. And, I figured if people found out, they found out. But, I just would sit down and have these close personal conversations with people. And like, this is what I've had going on. This is who I am. And, at that point, I wasn't ready to change my name or anything like that. I was just like, I'm transgender, and this is what that means for me. And, I talked to, 24 people before word started spreading around the school. So I'm really thankful that I got to have those conversations. I think it changed the whole atmosphere in the building for me. When I came out to my principal, she was the fifth person I had talked to. And she had no experience whatsoever with anyone transgender. One of the guidance counselors that I mentioned had come out to her a few years prior, and she hadn't even known any lesbians at that point. And so everything was brand new to her. But she promised that she would do her best to learn, and she would talk to me if she had any issues or if anybody else had issues. And she held up that, and
that's wonderful. As an adult,
it really it made me feel safe.
Exactly. And that's all that needed to be said. That's wonderful.
And it was at that point, it's like, I'm just going to stick to this teaching thing as long as I can. And, that's when the state of Iowa started passing a lot of their laws to restrict, transgender people's rules in society. And so it sped up a lot of things for me, like with my name change and, getting paperwork done. I wasn't born in Iowa. So, I got my birth certificate fixed out of state. And, I did the whole passport thing just barely in time. And it's weird because my experience transitioning is so alien to so many of my friends. I mean, it's been almost exclusively a positive experience for me. I work in a place where there's only a few people that are openly antagonistic to me.
Okay.
The vast majority of people are very accepting and supportive. And there's some that just don't get it, but they're still respectful. And so that's fine with me. So I'm really lucky. I haven't had a lot of the hate directed at me that I was expecting from the moment I came out. And it was just the last week of school last year when a parent finally said something. It was like, I was getting anxious. It's like, nobody cares what's going on. But a parent came to the principal and was like, I don't want this teacher around my kid. And and the lady had gone to the teacher first, who's a friend of mine, and they didn't know how I would react. So my friends kind of kept it from me. And then she went to the principal next. And, I love my friends for protecting me that way. But the principal had also said, if anybody ever has a problem, I'm going to tell you. And so the lady went to the principal, and the principal came right to me and pulled me out of a meeting. Hey, I need to talk to you for a little bit. And, but she had told this parent, like, that's not an accommodation we're going to do for you. But, if you want, I can help you fill out the transfer paperwork and you can take your kid somewhere else. So, it's like just that aggressive support.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it was even a negative experience, even
Oh my
though the
gosh.
parent was
Wow.
making it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Ah.
it just reminded me of how many people I have, you know,
Yeah.
that have my back.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And I actually like to think that maybe that is more what the culture is like, that there are more people than we realize who are way more accepting. I was listening to a thing on the radio today when I was driving, and he's a professor from Yale who moved to Canada, and he's all about, we're a fascist country. And I kept thinking, I'm sorry, I'm not ready to think that. Yes, I know there is a group who probably are, but I really don't believe most Americans are. I just don't.
Yeah, that's
People are afraid of what they don't understand. And when they're
Mhm.
afraid of what they don't
Yeah.
understand, you will fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But when
Mhm.
you interact with people of the LGBTQ community or people of color or whatever, then it becomes more personable, and then you see the person. And I think the veil is,
You learn a whole other.
yeah.
My God, we are
Mhm.
all more alike than we are.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, in my experience, probably about a quarter of people are just wholeheartedly supportive.
Yeah.
Like you say who you are, and they're like, awesome, let's roll with that. There's a small minority who are very negative.
Sorry about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
It just happens that those people seem to have the loudest voice right now.
I know.
And
I know.
I think they use transgender issues as a distraction from bigger
Absolutely.
problems.
From, what? Sometimes files? Oh,
Yeah, things like that.
things like that.
But most people, like, if they know you, they really don't care at all.
Exactly.
But the not caring part is also harmful in a way, because since they don't care when the really bad things come out, they're like, well, nobody I know. So that makes it harder. But
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's like what they're going to come. They came for me. What was it? I didn't care. Then they came. What's that thing? And then you finally see them when they're coming. Because
They're coming for me. Yeah.
white heterosexual women aren't safe in the organization that we won't talk about. Oh, I didn't think they were coming for me. You didn't? Oh, yeah. I was waiting.
But
yeah.
I think
But
I
yeah.
think a lot of people are learning that when you go after trans people, you're really hurting a lot of cisgender people more than you're hurting the trans people.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Any woman who's gender nonconforming in just their appearance,
Yeah.
short hair, kind of a lesbian vibe. It's like,
Right.
oh no, that must be a man.
Right.
But
Right.
trans men don't have it either. I have pretty close friends with several, and
Yeah.
like the bathroom terror is real for them too. Because they'll get attacked brutally if they go into a ladies' room, but they don't feel safe in a men's room either with the environment. So
yeah,
it's rough sometimes.
So, Dawn, what should we look forward with you in the future besides you giving us a short story? I'm excited.
She's doing another novel.
That's right.
Yeah, I've got the one draft. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to dig into that yet. I've been putting it off, but the one I'm going to write next is going to be even heavier. So I think maybe it would be good practice, and I think I put this off long enough. But also, when I have an idea in my head, I want to get it on paper as fast as I can.
Well, I encourage you, because I grappled with that too, because in my piece that I'm putting in our short story, it's a memoir piece, and I've never. Val was the one who talked me into this. My mother committed suicide when I was 9, and bad, and then I had a terrible stepmother who was the cruel stepmother. So, and I never write about it because I've got all these clients out there, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to write about it. And it takes time, it's a process, but it helps to do it.
How can we find your books, Dawn? And do you have a website up and running that people can visit?
I don't have a specific author website. That's another thing that's kind of like, it would be adding one more thing to my plate that
Right.
I have things falling off my plate constantly.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
something that's
Yeah,
kind of been on the back
yeah.
burner. They are available on Amazon.
Okay.
I have a Facebook author page that I engage with once in a while, but not as much as I should. I just dropped off copies of my new book at Page Turner's bookstore in Indianola.
Okay.
So they have both novels there. I'll get around to popping into other bookstores around the metro here.
Go to the little
soon.
bookstore Go to the little bookstore. It's LGBTQ owned.
Okay.
It's on 6th and Euclid, right across from Highland Park Bakery.
Okay, yeah. I don't make it out to Highland Park as often as I used to, but I'll make a trip out there. And The Last Sunset, this is like my favorite achievement of all. You can actually get that at the Des Moines Public Library,
Yay.
which is so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a student last year who's like, yeah, we're on the list to get it from the library. I'm like, it's not in the library. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, because I did nothing to get it into the Des Moines Library. This kid was just arguing with me. It's like, no, we're going to get it. We are on the list. I'm like, so fine. So I pulled up my phone to prove her wrong. I'm like, look, it's like, oh, wait, it is right there.
It is.
So,
Great.
it was really cool. Like,
Yeah.
that's when I felt like a real author the first
I
time.
When they're in the libraries,
library
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's in the Carlisle Library too.
Yay. That's great.
So, but I know the head librarian, so like that's kind of
Yeah.
I don't know that counts, but when it just ends up on its own in a library, that's really sweet.
I love it.
We're out of time, but listen, so everybody, Dawn's books are on Amazon, check out the Des Moines Public Library, also Carlisle, Indianola, our little suburbs around here in Des Moines. And it was so wonderful to have you on, Dawn. So much wonderful information about your books, The Educator, and the importance of what you do to help, young children not feel alone. And I write for, young trans people not to feel alone as well. So we're going to say goodbye and then hang on for a few minutes. Hang on for a second, okay, after we say goodbye.
Sure will.
All right, Dawn, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.